Hey, I'm Charlie, Exposure Ninja's CEO. I joined a panel of SEO experts and SEMrush to talk about how ChatGPT and generative AI engines are changing the way that we all search. Last year, Google lost some of its share of search for the first time. And in 2025, we can be sure that people are going to continue using ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and the other AI chatbots as the new way of searching. And that's going to be at home, it's going to be at work, it's going to be in text, and sometimes it's going to be in voice as well. So we have a copy of the recording. It's going to start in just a few seconds. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you have any questions about generative AI and how this is going to impact search this year, drop those questions in the comments and I will do my best to come back to you with an answer.
All right, welcome everyone. We're excited to get today's presentation started. I've got some amazing panelists here to join us. We're going to be diving deep on the ebook that was recently released by SEMrush and Statista around the impact of Gen AI, around ChatGPT, generative AI, in search AI. And so this is a huge one. Now, I've actually spent probably the last 3 or 4 days deep in searching on search AI related platforms, just so I can really understand, what's coming up, how my company's showing up, how the companies that we work with show up, and then how general companies are showing up in search. And it's exciting, as well as it could be a little bit scary to see all the work we put into our SEO strategies and seeing how it's starting to be affected by this AI search. And so today we're going to get a chance to dive deep. Now, we put in the announcement a link to the ebook that you can download. And I actually had a chance to read through most of it. I didn't get through all of it because it's kind of long, but it's worth the read. There's so much great information in there. And just to give you an idea of some of the high level topics, it talks about AI search market overview, how ChatGPT and AI, who are those searchers on ChatGPT and AI, if you want to understand who those type of individuals are. Early interest and impact, how ChatGPT is being used, and an outlook of the future. So, but we're going to bring a lot of that to life in this conversation here. So before we get deep into this, my name is Jimmy Newsom. I will be your moderator. I am the founder and CEO of Moving Forward Small Business, where we talk about innovation, technology, and strategy, which is probably one of the reasons why they asked me to do this. And I was like, absolutely, let's get it done. So without further ado, I want to start by making sure, giving each one of our panelists a chance to introduce themselves for about a minute, and then we're going to get right into it. But also over here to the right, depending on what device you're on, put your questions in the Q&A. That's where I'll be able to get access to your questions and integrate them into the questions that we have that are going to be related to this ebook. That we can really get into for you and get you some great answers. Of course, unfortunately, we can't get to all the questions because we only have an hour. And I know I like to talk, and I'm assuming some of the individuals on this call like to talk too, and get that information out there. So let's start with who wants to go first to do a quick introduction of themselves.
I'm happy to go first.
There we go.
I'm Charlie. I'm the CEO of a digital marketing agency called Exposure Ninja. We're search specialists. So we specialize in SEO, AI search, also known as generative engine optimization, and Google Ads, but we also do full stack. So all the way through from branding, positioning, website design and development to ongoing marketing, getting traffic and leads and converting them on your website.
Beautiful. Sarah 1 or Sarah 2? There we go.
So yeah, I'm Sarah. I am the digital marketing director at Dragonmetrics. We're an all-in-one SEO platform, so we do everything like rank tracking, reporting, content writing, backlink analysis, all of that kind of lovely stuff that you need for your SEO.
And I'm also Sara, but without a final H, as you see. And I'm an international SEO consultant based in Barcelona. I also specialize in user experience, and I like to bring UX to SEO. So that's also why you'll often find me talking about search experience optimization. And I also manage an SEO community called SEO Barcelona to boost networking in my city. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here with you all.
And finally, last but not least.
Fantastic. My name is Fernando Angulo. I'm the senior market research here at SEMrush. I am part of a big team that is actually in charge of this report, and we also really love SEO, everything related to digital marketing. Me as market research, I work a lot with different data sets and different tools. And right now, well, basically, we are following the growth of AI in every possible direction. Actually, we are seeing so much traffic going to AI tools and AI different platforms that, well, it's a new thing that is completely blowing our minds right now.
Absolutely. So, real quick, again, on when you drop your question in the Q&A, try to please keep it relevant to this conversation. I see a couple questions that come in that might be a little bit more for tech, the tech department or whatnot. So you might have to redirect that question there. But if it's relevant to here, I'll be able to pull that question out. So let's start with, first of all, defining what AI-powered search is. So I'm going to pull it directly from the ebook, which says the current market trend driven by chatbots based on large language process models. AI-powered search engines are conversational, and so it's using both machine learning and deep learning techniques to produce more of a dialogue style output. And what I've noticed in some of those searches is sometimes they'll give us sources, which is great because that's an opportunity for us to get that visibility we're looking for. And I've also noticed sometimes it doesn't give any sources, which at the end of the day is a little scary because, again, it's pulling that information, but it's not giving credit. So we can talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to scroll back up here and I'm going to pull one more thing out, and then we're going to go directly into our questions. And this will kind of open up our conversation. And there's a summary at the beginning of the report. And one thing that stood out to me is it says, Fernando, you mentioned that, the search is going up for search for AI-based search tools. But it says, however, despite the increased usage of success in these tools, users are still left either uninterested or wary of the results. Okay, so there's still opportunity for us to leverage, general search. They will improve this, but let me start with starting with trust and adoption. So what are your thoughts on, how can we address the accuracy, the security, and the misinformation that these AI search tools are still giving us when we do these searches? What are your thoughts on that? And anyone can jump in and start first.
Well,
Maybe I can.
go for it. Yes, Sarah. Yes.
Yeah, so misinformation is something that I've been talking about a lot recently in my talks that I've been doing. It's a tough one because, misinformation is kind of everywhere, and even in traditional search, studies on, medical, I'll give you an example, for example, like medical documentation or medical websites. Studies by doctors have shown that actually 60% of that is incorrect.
Wow.
And that's stuff that's been by humans online. So you've got this misinformation, all of this information in normal search, and it's kind of no wonder that LLMs kind of pass it on when you're thinking about the data they're trained on, especially if they're trained on stuff that's online. So I think, people do have a genuine reason to worry about, what they're reading, the sort of stuff that they're getting when they ask an LLM. But I think when it comes to kind of, is it worse than online search? Anybody can become a writer, anybody can write articles, they don't have to be necessarily qualified to rank in search online. So is it any worse than kind of online search? Probably not, if I'm being completely honest.
Okay.
Yep. Definitely, I see like a real risk, especially with your money, your life content. So if someone's not familiar with what your money, your life means, it's like when we're talking about subjects that directly impact a person's health, safety, finances, overall well-being. So it can be medical advice, like Sarah was discussing, financial planning, safety guidelines. I've read about AI written books, like this is happening, and we have books, for example, on topics like mushrooms. And there have been, like, if you search, like Google this, people who have bought these books and they actually ate poisonous fishes, and they were sick. And imagine the potential danger that this can mean. No, like, we can talk about sickness but also death. And so yeah, any topic like this, of this nature, definitely needs to deserves human fact check, like just also expertise, not just anyone checking it, but also making sure that all this content gets checked by a professional, a subject matter expert that can confirm, okay, this information is correct. Because yeah, even if we're going to start using AI more to generate text, to speed up our processes, we cannot get rid of like that last step of like a human that is the expert in the topic double checking all the information.
Absolutely.
I totally think these concerns are valid. And one of the recent studies that came out was just a small study, a micro study from the College Investor, said that 43% of finance related searches, so finance being your money, your life niche, because that's personal to us, it affects the buying decisions that we make, or where we put our investments, what we do with our pensions, how we pay tax, all of that sorts of things. 43% of those searches had inaccurate or incorrect information in Google's AI overview. So the point that I want to make here is that this isn't only something that happens in ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or Gen AI bots. This is also something that we have to be aware of as searchers who use the internet. And for many people, they may not have even differentiated Google's AI overviews, which is the text summary that you get on some searches at the top of the Google search results. But those are also generated by AI. And all of this information is pulled from different places across the internet, different sources. Each of these types of Gen AI platforms or chatbots, they're using slightly different systems behind them. Some of them have got search engines behind them, some of them don't. And so this information is already out there on the internet. And I think there's both a level of responsibility for Google and for the businesses that run these AI platforms, but there's also a level of personal responsibility in terms of fact checking our sources before we just trust information. The same way you would when you're having a conversation with another human being. It doesn't mean you automatically trust what they're saying, what they're telling you. You do your own research in order to decide whether you actually believe something is true. And I think one way of doing that is for looking for direct citations and understanding the sources. But I think from a personal usage point of view, when it comes to things like ChatGPT or where you make searches, also being careful with the sensitive data that you throw in there. And I would say, especially if you're working on behalf of any businesses, not sharing any data that isn't anonymized, that might cause, if it's going to be a GDPR issue, just think of it the same way, I think is the simple way. The other thing, if you're an individual searcher and you're concerned about it, in ChatGPT, there's just a toggle that you can turn off that says improve the model for everyone, which will mean it doesn't use and train the ChatGPT algorithm on your information, on what you're putting on there. So I think for anyone sort of working in marketing or working on the business side, that's a safer way to use the models as well.
I completely agree with you about the fact checking thing. So I'm going to go on a psychology rant now for a minute. But I absolutely agree. I think as people, we have to understand how we search as well. And as people, we're automatically drawn to information that confirms our existing beliefs, confirmation bias. So as searchers, we need to be aware of this, that, we're going to automatically ignore information that may be correct, but it doesn't kind of fit in with what we believe. So the more that we understand that, the more we improve our digital literacy, the better we can be at spotting, misinformation, information that's not correct, and things that we can do to stop this.
That this is something really interesting because when you were mentioning that, okay, people need to talk to people, and usually we do our own research to just fact check the conversation or some data points, right? In terms of the traffic journey with tools like ChatGPT, we have seen that people are entering their queries on ChatGPT or Gemini or other AI platforms, but the next moment, 80% of those users are going to Google to check their own results. So people are still trying to build that trust around the results that they are receiving from these kind of platforms. Well, this is pretty much critical for the adoption of those tools massively, because right now we are receiving all the information elaborated by the algorithm, but then most of the people are going again to Google to fact check if these things are real or if this is true or the level of accuracy that basically concerns to everybody. And when we're talking about business, well, setting politics internally to not share any personal or any business related information should be a must for any company. They need to have this approach to say, okay, we are not sharing anything. Even if you are a ChatGPT administrator inside your company, you should put this as, I don't know, a big banner saying we do not share anything business related information here on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is a great tool for everybody, but we need to be careful about it.
Absolutely. So there's a lot going on here, and it sounds like it's everybody's responsibility to build that trust, and as the adoption starts to grow, and people, because you all hit it right on the nail. You shouldn't be leveraging just one source for to and then taking that initial source. It's like getting three proposal options, three pricing options, and then choosing the best one based on what's included with the price. So we go back to that. And so Jeff asked a question, which is going to be relevant to my next question. It says, in a world where people are getting what they want from Chat GPT or Claude, is Google's dominance in search quickly declining? And so I'll put that with the second question around the future of search. That to say, well, what does the future of online search look like for both the users and the business as we start to get more dominated with AI-based search?
This is such a juicy question. I'm so excited by what's happened
like
this year.
that.
So the report shows, and there's other data that corroborates this, that this is the first year that Google has lost search traffic. So the first time that they've lost some of that share. They are still, though, the major player. They are still the dominant search engine, just like Fernando was saying. People still search on them, even after searching on ChatGPT. Does that mean they'll have it forever? No. Does it mean they'll die overnight? No, I don't think so. They're going to have to do a lot. And they have a lot of things going on. Like they have the antitrust case that's going on in the US. There's lots of things that could mean that Google doesn't remain the most dominant player. And I think businesses have to just be really aware of this and where their search traffic is coming from. And that's one of like the really important things, I think, to keep a track of, whether you're someone who uses Google Analytics 4 or if you're using any other type of tool that shows you where your traffic's coming from, how much of that is actually coming through Google and how much of that is coming through other sources. So for a lot of our clients, we've already started to see a bit of a shift. It depends a lot on their industries, but seeing traffic actually coming through from ChatGPT and other Gen AI chatbots, and I'm sure other marketers have seen the same thing. So I think this is something businesses are going to have to start being aware of and adapting their strategies for. But actually, I think it's a little also about your risk aversion, like how much you are the kind of person that like Google's the dominant, not worried about it for now, worry about that later, versus is that shift already starting to come? And actually some of those changes on the legal side, on the political side, could make that quicker.
Yeah,
Sure.
and I think we're going to see a shift also in the user journeys. We were also discussing about the fact that users may start searching on ChatGPT and then they go to Google. And the way I see it is that it's possible that for informational queries, users may use ChatGPT. And then once they start going down the funnel and they are ready, they know what they want to buy, they are going to go to Google to search for those products that they became aware they need. And what initially started as an informational query, then once you go down, you go back to Google and you go back to doing things the traditional way. So I think that I don't see Google losing, like, it's true that, okay, it's true that searches on Google are going down, but still going to be like a key player. I don't see this trend changing. I just see like we need to be ready to have both coexisting. So ChatGPT and Google, as well as other search engines that may be more relevant in other markets. We shouldn't forget other players that maybe, if we are used to work with European markets, US markets, we don't talk about them that often. But I see, it's definitely a very interesting landscape that we are starting to see. But I think that as businesses, we need to take into consideration, based on this intent, it's more possible a user may go to ChatGPT, and then, another intent is more, Google may be a better platform. So yeah.
Okay.
It was really interesting that you mentioned international search engines, because when I read the report, I was really surprised that it said in there that Naver had completely sprung up since, AI and the international or ex-international SEO in me. Like when I used to do campaigns for Korea, it was very much kind of, you have to optimize for Google, you have to optimize for Naver. But I'm wondering, are we going to see the shift, and is Naver going to go back up as a dominant search engine in Korea? Like that's something that I'd love to follow and see where the future is. But speaking about kind of Google markets and stuff, I think as people, the way people want information is that they want information fast, and whatever gives them the fastest information, is going to win at the end of the day. Is it going to be ChatGPT? Maybe it's looking like it because, with the decline of search results and the kind of things that we're seeing in the SERPs, Google isn't, meeting users' needs. So I think we're at a really interesting place within search at the moment. And yeah, I've got my popcorn and I'm looking forward to seeing, where this plays out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fernando.
Yes, still having this question that is really, really massive. What is the future of search engines right now? As the report shows that, okay, Google is still here and AI is still really here, but it's growing that fast that from September 2 years ago, nobody was talking about AI or algorithm or ChatGPT 3.5, but just in a couple of months, 3 months, most of the people in the industry were telling, okay, this is going to change everything. 2 years from it, well, everybody has a paid account on ChatGPT. And now you have several corporate accounts on different platforms. The thing has become really natural for everybody, talking, interacting with the AI. So this kind of diversification on the types of creating content for optimizing your campaigns, your images, your videos, tailoring emails, rewriting. So there are so many ways people are using it right now. And if you ask them, hey, how you will handle these tasks, for example, rewriting an email right now without AI, and they say, oh my God, I have so much more time right now, not rewriting or not making some changes, just adjusting my prompt. Right now, people are getting really used to it. And this type of personalization is really deep. Having the context of a prompt and the results, validate the results with someone that is an expert on it, has become the norm of search right now. But still, Google is still over here, and AI traffic is just starting.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure how much we may get into the generative AI side of things. We may touch on it, but when I think of ChatGPT and before now, I really thought about it as a content creation type of scenario. And then, of course, last month they released Search GPT, to kind of put a stamp on use this for search, So they're kind of declaring that. And then, of course, you got Perplexity and these other tools. And I'm actually just now finding out about Navin, but I spend most of my time in the U.S. I hope I pronounced that right, Sarah. But so let's look at like maybe real use cases around how we optimize. So Francis asked, and this kind of doubles on my other question, man, we got a really intelligent audience that's engaging with us. And He says, how do you get your website to be cited in ChatGPT results? And then I'm going to jump to my question, which kind of was where we were going there, is, what are strategies to evolve, to optimize for that conversational and that contextual conversation that is being had on tools like ChatGPT? Can we get any use cases or what things you're doing to kind of, balance, or is it the same? It's just still being really well optimized. What are your thoughts?
I think for me, it comes down to brand awareness. So, when you type things into ChatGPT, you ask for results and stuff. And even if you make searches on your own industry, just because you're curious if it mentions you and things like that, it's always the brands that have the biggest brand awareness. And it's always the brands that kind of have the biggest presence that seem to get mentioned time and time again. So I would say, even though it doesn't seem relevant to SEO, make sure that you are working on that brand awareness. Make sure that you have content everywhere. Make sure that you're writing your own content, you're getting mentioned in other people's content, so you're as visible as you can be online. And for us, that's something that I've been working on at Dragonmetrics, trying to get our brand awareness out there and stuff like that. And it's basically, you kind of have to attack it on all fronts, not just SEO, but also looking at it from marketing in general, PR, that kind of stuff as well, if you want to get mentioned there.
And before you jump in, I wanted to say I was hoping someone would go there, and I'm sure the rest of you will. It is becoming more of a broader situation. It's not just SEO. You have to be focusing on everything, and now it becomes more of an intricate web. But go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, so the agency I work for, we specialize in search, and we've spent a lot of time testing across different industries how you actually get your business or your brand recommended in ChatGPT and all of the mechanics that go on behind that. The mistake would be to think that it works the same way as Google's algorithm or search engine algorithms. It does not. Even if some of them are using those searches in the background, some use Bing search, for example, but it's not using the same ranking factors, which is what Sarah's kind of touched on here. Actually, it's looking much more broadly at what's going on. And the factors that we've noticed are also coming into this are things like where you're getting mentioned. So if people are talking about you on Reddit, if they're talking about you on Quora, if they're talking about you on third-party review sites, how they're speaking about you on those sites as well, the kinds of publications that you might have if you do any kind of link building or digital PR, that's coming into it, what social media influencers are saying about you, what first person opinions and how those are coming up, as well as having a really good, well optimized website and all of the sort of good things that you would be doing for SEO. Because at the basis of all of these Gen AI chatbots, there's large language models, and they work based on recognizing patterns and being able to clearly understand things and recognize what pattern is happening there, which means that content needs to be really, really well structured on a website so that these machines can actually recognize what is being said in content. And that means structuring your content not just as if you're trying to, you never just optimize for bots, you're optimizing for human readers as well, because you want to convert them into paying customers at the end of the day if you're a business. But actually thinking, how do I make what I'm writing on my website really, really clear? And then the other side of that, on the sort of brand side that Sarah was talking about there, is the sentiment, or what we would call like a brand sentiment analysis of how you're being compared to competitors. Because one thing is being mentioned. The second thing is being mentioned the way you want to be. So you might not want to be called the cheapest in your industry. Maybe you do. You might want to be called the best value or something like that, wherever you're trying to position, because what actually matters there is how you're being spoken about more broadly on the internet. And that includes what people are saying about you in reviews, what influencers are saying about you, what's being said in forums. And if they're saying, this is a cheap product or a cheap brand, versus if they're saying this is a high-end, this is luxury brand, that also is then filtering through into these AI tools. So there's really sort of two layers to be thinking about in terms of your search strategy here.
Now that was amazing. I love that. And it does, my brain now goes, wow, because if you think about it, when you talk about large language models, it is taken more into consideration.
Yes, so much more. There was actually a paper written actually a little while ago by some researchers. So it wasn't necessarily a marketing paper, but an academic one. And they coined the term generative engine optimization, or GEO, not to be confused with geography. which is now being used a little bit more in our sector, really to talk about this as an evolution of SEO, because you need to have great SEO to be doing well at this. But actually, it's not the same thing. It's not exactly the same. You're not just doing great SEO and hoping that everything therefore means you get mentioned in ChatGPT the way you want. There's actually a lot more involved that's going on. So good SEO, yes, you totally need it first. And, you know, tools like SEMrush, they're perfect at actually helping you achieve that. And then the next level from there is, okay, what am I doing? How are we talking about my brand? What does my PR strategy look like? What kind of links am I getting? All of the other kind of marketing work, being much broader and more thoughtful about your strategy with that is essential.
Wow.
Something that we like to try now that we're talking about the real implementation and how to be cited, for example, on ChatGPT or any other AI tool. I would like to try the new AI feature by Apple. So is Siri getting smarter? We are here in Europe. We don't have that. Have you tried that there in New York, Jimmy? Have you tried the new smart Siri?
I have not yet. I actually read about it in the report, and I was like, do I have that on my phone? So I haven't checked it yet.
I don't know if it's working in the UK. Is working in the UK?
I'm an Android user, I'm afraid. Sorry, I haven't tried it.
Halloween is over. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, because something interesting happened a couple of years ago when everybody was really talking about the feature snippets, right? And how these voice search results appeared. And basically, most of the voice search results were taken from these feature snippets. And right now, some of the results that we have seen in the AI overview are somehow taken from the feature snippets as well. So having a good optimization on the structured data that you have managed, maybe you have some markups, you have a schema markups, you are using, I don't know, FAQs or article schema or any others, are also really great for having this kind of voice search results, then the feature snippets. And now if you have AI overviews, well, I want to try the new smart Siri to see if the new AI overviews are taken by Siri or any other smart device.
And that's where you really just do have to start doing some level of testing. Like I said, I spent most of the morning, because of this call, just doing some extra searching, that just so I can kind of get an understanding of what's going on. I did some searching on behalf of some of my clients. I did some searching on behalf of me, and I used multiple platforms so I can kind of see, do I even show up? Do we even show up? And if not, who's showing up? And then following that path, if there is one, to see, well, what could be some contributing factors. So Sarah too, and not that you're the second Sarah, but we're going to say that for right now. Because what do you got?
Well, I think that we were discussing content now, and I think we should also discuss. We were talking at the beginning about your money, your life, and the risks of AI generated content, because we're talking about how to show up in results. But I think it's also important that we discuss about how should we be generating content if we are doing it with AI. And because I think this is a trend that is not going to go downwards, using AI to help us brainstorm content ideas, and also to improve our content, and to just to including it in our content production workflows. So I think it's important that, as I said in the beginning, double checking that the content is factually correct, but also I think that businesses absolutely need to prioritize EEAT principles if they are not doing it already. So experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So even if you are using an AI tool like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity to help yourself with your content production, you need to make sure that the human element is there, not just with fact checking, but also provide strong author bios to show your expertise, to build trust with your readers, and also video reviews to add authenticity. And also, it's important that we also partner up with other teams that may be in touch with influencers or subject matter experts on, a topic, and that we also integrate other formats, videos, cross-functional collaborations that help us reinforce our authority on those topics. So I think that EEAT is something that absolutely businesses need to prioritize for content. And I also believe that when you create this authentic, this trustworthy experience, all this content that provides real value and that you can see a human was behind it, I see this content should also not just prioritized by search engines, but also AI tools. I want to believe this is also going to have an impact in appearing in AI search results.
Sure, absolutely. I had two people ask. Tori asked, what is the report that keeps getting referenced? And Prachi asked, is there a presentation around this? I would say the report. If you look at, there's a section called announcements, and there's a link for you to get the book. So you can download it, and that will kind of represent what we're talking about today for those that may have joined a little bit late. So feel free to check that out. And again, these are great things. So let's dive a little bit deeper into, let's pick up where Sarah, without the H, kind of left off in regards to, the creation of the assets. Let's talk a little bit about that. So can you share your insights on what content you are creating that has the ability to help you show up in search?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So I guess the question is a little bit about how you use Gen AI to create content and whether you should. So
Yes.
the answer is can you use it? Yes. If you put out rubbish content, you get rubbish results. So don't do that. That's not going to work. The same as SEO in general. It's the same as, someone who writes content and isn't experienced at writing content. It's not going to be as good. It's not going to rank as well. There's a lot of things to think about when you're using it. I am a big fan of using ChatGPT for content writing to help me structure what I'm going to write. I'm not a fan of using it for my tone of voice and trying to replicate the way that I like to write and the things that I like to say and how I word things. Because if you're putting out great content, if everyone's just putting out great content, they've used ChatGPT, it's going to look really similar. So to actually rank and do well, you need to think about, what is my content giving that's different from other pieces of content that are ranking well, that are ranking on that first page of Google, or that are being referenced in ChatGPT. And great content is usually distinct because it hits the user's search intent. When they're searching for something, they think, wow, that is exactly what I wanted to find as an answer to my query. But it also usually offers something new. And so that might be something like a case study. It might be unique pieces of data or unique studies or reports that you have done as a business or as an individual. It might also be expert insights. As Sarah mentioned earlier, you might have someone on your team who is really experienced, or you might have to go outside of your team to find someone who is an academic in a certain area to check and review your content and give insights that are different from what everyone else is saying. You can't get that stuff out of ChatGPT. So should you use it? Yeah, I think people should use it because it can definitely help structure writing. Should you rely on it? No.
Absolutely. And as you said, I also found something that was super useful for me as well. You may have a piece of content covering, a more generic topic. And I think those success stories, use cases that, organically speaking, may not be, the best pieces of content, but they are becoming more and more important in, showing that human element and, integrating them in that content that is more SEO friendly and touches a topic more broadly. That's definitely something that we need to start integrating even more now with waves of AI content that we're seeing. And you also mentioned the tone of voice. That's definitely some struggle that I see when generating content, AI content. A brand has a tone of voice, and if you just create it with ChatGPT, you're not gonna nail that. I think, and I've tried it to take pieces of content and tell ChatGPT, can you write this in this style or define the tone of voice of a brand really well? But still, human proofreading is needed because it doesn't nail it.
I think that's so true. And kind of touching back on one of the points that I mentioned earlier, like it's so important that the information that you have is correct. And from my experience, from working for content agencies and stuff, lots of people tend to look at the SERPs, tend to kind of replicate what's in the SERPs, and they don't kind of use their own unique expertise to kind of take that further and take it more than a surface level article. But I'm a massive fan of creating something longer, creating something that, you know, shares your insight, shares your industry's insight, shares experts insights into different things. So rather than, you know, just using ChatGPT or, you know, using somebody who writes absolutely everything, make sure that, you know, you are using experts to write this, because they'll be able to give you insights that, you know, ChatGPT can't. And that being said, like, we've just launched a content writing tool at Dragonmetrics, and it's absolutely amazing for helping doing, you know, the competitor analysis and for doing things, you know, like the outlines and stuff. But nothing can replace kind of those human minds with that experience. So if you can combine the two, I think, you know, you're onto a winner there.
Absolutely. Unless you wanted to say something, Fernando, I have a question specifically for you. You ready?
Well, yes, let's go for the question.
All right. So, and again, you may not be. It says Justin asks, is SEMrush factoring in or tracking if the user is using an AI search, using AI search as part of their, you know, in your tool in SEMrush?
Well, AI traffic per se can be tracked, because we know all these platforms, but we don't have that functionality yet. But we're working on it.
Okay, and I do see it when, you know, it lets us know where that traffic is coming from, and I do see Perplexity showing up quite a bit. I do see Chat GPT showing up, and in a few areas as well. So there, I guess it depends on where you are in the tool where you might be able to see that type of data. So a lot of great questions. I've got too many questions I can get to, but so I'm going to come back to the chat in a second. But I want to jump over and I want to talk about zero-click search results, because that's what we're going to be getting a lot of when it comes to showing up on, you know, in Gemini and in ChatGPT. You know, are there any strategies that you can get people to capitalize on the fact that they are showing up in zero search, you know, as a zero search click? Is there anything else they can do to, again, build, you know, to get that brand awareness, to get them to go through and end up somewhere in their ecosystem? Anybody want to answer that? No.
I'm quite happy. Maybe I can. This is a really tough one because, you know, when you appear in search, you ideally want people to go onto your website and you want them to go and take actions, whereas zero-click results, you know, don't give you that traditional kind of like path to purchase. But I think, you know, it's a great brand awareness tool as well. And if you can get your knowledge out there, you can get your brand mentioned, you can make sure that, you know, you do appear as in the best possible light as possible. People will remember you and people will come back to you if they need something, or if they want to find out more information, they may still click onto you. So I think rather than just kind of ignoring it and being like, I don't want to do that because there's no click and people aren't going to go and convert, just use it as an extra way of getting your brand out there and being shown as an expert in your industry.
Sure. And I knew that was a tough question, but I wanted to ask it. It looks like, Charlie, you might ready to jump in.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to it as well. Like, this is one of those things where when you're thinking about Google search, you're thinking about informational and also commercial keywords. So informational being much more at the top of the funnel. People are just researching. They're not quite sure exactly what they're looking for. Commercial being much further down the bottom of the funnel. They're closer to being ready to buy because they've done their research. They've, you know, considered a couple of different businesses, and now they're thinking like, okay, I think I know roughly what this should cost and what I want to spend, who I want to spend it with. So no business would optimize only for commercial keywords and hope to win that way in Google. They're also thinking about the informational. And I think the same when you're thinking about some results being, you know, zero click, or they're not going to have any kind of links within them in AI chatbots. You don't have that much control over those. And if you think that you would dominate in searches like, you know, the best whatever accountancy firm, the best plumber in Essex, without also optimizing for some of those other searches and showing your expertise, I think that would be a limited view of how that's going to work. Because the other thing to consider is loads of the results now in ChatGPT, for example, they do cite sources with links. I've just done one now that has given me map results with website links through to different businesses, that gives directions, it gives the website, it gives the click to call button. I think it would also be short-sighted to think that these ChatGPT and the other Gen AI chatbots aren't going to evolve to include more links and more searches, more
Absolutely.
different types of search within them as well. Because even if you're going through a long tail conversation back and forth with ChatGPT, you may eventually be asking it a question, or the searcher may eventually be asking a question that then does give links or does give recommendations. And if you haven't also thought about all of those preliminary questions that are going to be asked at the top of the funnel, then you're forfeiting your right or your ability to also be referenced in the recommendations where you do want your business to be. So I think you have to think about both. And I think, you should think broadly about what someone needs from your business, because that's both information before it's product or service.
Yeah, and I like the way you said that, because it kind of ties into the next question, where I give anybody the chance to go into, where you probably all experienced this, where you have a client call you up and they're like, we're not ranking for this keyword anymore, but then you're going, but look at all the other ones you are ranking for that are really great keywords, and they're just so bent on that one, and you're like, you can't build your entire life around this keyword. So, as he laughs. So this brings me to, I'm going to combine two questions because we're trying to be efficient here. So I'm my own AI. All right, so we've got, what about the importance of well-structured keyword strategies on SEO? This adds value to GEO, and you kind of answered that. And but to add to that, and this is to give everybody else a chance to jump in, with SEO evolving quite a bit, do the basics and standards still matter, such as meta, schema, headers, or do we need to change? Do we need to rethink the strategy? So that was by Justin, and the first question was by Romina.
I think for the second one, not yet, because Google's still, the main area where people are getting their traffic from. So, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot if you kind of rethink the basics and everything that you need to do for that. Maybe, something will change in the future. But again, we can't tell that ahead of time. So right now, like from my own personal experience, to keep optimizing for Google or the main search engine where you live, and then keep working on your brand awareness, keep working on your marketing as a whole, and then the ChatGPT stuff will come, but don't kind of necessarily take all your bets away from Google. We're not there yet.
Yeah, and I was actually I was smiling when Jimmy, you were mentioning the clients that are obsessed with appearing for a specific query. I've also noticed that many times a company may think that, oh, we should be ranking for this, and maybe it's like very like language that they use internally in the company, but then users use other terms. So it's important that this is not exactly related to AI, but still something important for businesses to take into account, that the language users may use may be different from what the marketing teams may be using, and the terminology may vary. So it's important to take a look at the language that those users are using, and obviously, how it changes across regions that may have the same language, but it changes depending on the country. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that awareness to the conversation a little bit, because I think it's important.
Absolutely.
That's so important. I've seen that so many times, especially across, different countries and different markets. Like I often use examples of optimizing for like Irish websites versus British websites, because like even something as small as, cupboards or presses, can cause issues because of the different language, and nobody ever thinks about the difference between
kilometers, miles, etc., between the changes between both countries.
Exactly. So learn from localization and use data to inform what people are looking for. So rather than sticking to your terminology, look what people are actually searching for, use data. And
absolutely.
I laughed because we hear that a lot from clients, but not because I think it's a bad idea, but because I love the ambition of what those keywords always are. And I like to use the example, the kind of keyword that a business will often want to rank for is something like credit card. and they could be the newest, the newest bank, the newest independent player, and they're thinking that, that's the money term, that's the main keyword that I want to be. They're not thinking like, I've got to knock off like Barclays, Lloyds, all of these other global banks who have been optimizing for that aggressively for a very long time. But I love that ambition from a business owner, and I think, if you know that you want to go after a keyword, like, firstly, good for you. Secondly, you have to optimize for a lot of other keywords in order to do well for like one very competitive keyword. So your SEO strategy isn't just like, I'm going to write this keyword, I'm going to write credit cards all over my website and suddenly it's going to rank. And like, that is so from the early 2000s. And actually thinking about like, what's all of the structure around this. So if that's like the end goal, that you think that's going to drive you lots of sales and revenue, firstly, check that and use SEMrush. You can use SEMrush to check that. And then or you can speak to your marketing agency to check that if you like. And then you can think about all of the other keywords you want to rank for first that are then actually going to take you towards that goal, and you build up your, your pyramid and your mountain. And I think the interesting thing about how ChatGPT and Gen AI is changing the way we search is we might previously have just written something like buy trainers into Google. No more. Now we can use long tail keywords because ChatGPT and Gen AI, they understand what we're saying, what we're asking for. So you can ask like, I want to have trainers that look really trendy, but they need to be really good for people who have high arches because I have high arches. And then can you give me recommendations for brands that make trainers for high arches? And then you're comparing, say, New Balance and Nike and Skechers trainers. You can have that such a much longer conversation that those long tail keywords are going to become more and more important in search strategies, both for SEO and Google and for ChatGPT and Gen AI.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually impressed that nobody mentioned yet the actually power of backlinks. So backlinks are really great source for making just a landing page or a whole website more relevant to others. So get reference high traffic sites from I don't know, really major publications, for example. This is still working really great. And if that combines with the structure of the content, for example, for getting those 0 clicks, like, well, you're getting exposure if you have those 0 clicks. Still, you have brand awareness. If you had, for example, a featured snippet and your content is backed up with backlinks and you have the structure. We have analyzed a few years ago around 20,000 different featured snippets, and we found out 3 types of featured snippets. The first one are the list featured snippets. So you have the how to question, how to boil an egg, right? And there's going to be featured 6 points there, 6 stages. The second type of featured snippets are the table featured snippets. So it's like a spreadsheet. You have the results and you're going to be receiving the result there. And the most prominent and the most popular featured snippet is the paragraph featured snippet. No more than 54 words on the phrase, and you can get that featured snippet. So this structured content and the structure of the how you answer the questions from users from your own perspective, of course, powerful backlinks, well, that's a different deal.
Sure, absolutely. We're literally coming in on the hour, and I still have questions, and I have questions. Okay, so I'm thinking, we meet the same time next week, tea and crumpets, and we just keep this thing going. We'll talk about it. I don't know, but I want to change up for a little bit. I want to look at a really interesting something that was mentioned in the report that I was like, really, and it was around user behavior and preference. And it says, with desktop taking over mobile for ChatGPT, was not aware of that. What does this reveal about user preference for AI tools, and how can businesses align with their strategy? So, I would just, in most cases, mobile would dominate in a lot of industries, and seeing that it looks like that a lot of the user behavior from search in ChatGPT is desktop. Is that surprising for any of you here, or have you seen this as a trend, or what can we do about that?
For me, it was kind of interesting when I read that, but I think, again, the international SEO in me was kind of a bit like, why is this happening? Because there's lots of countries, lots of developing nations who are very, very strictly mobile first. So they have skipped the whole desktop stage completely and gone straight to mobile. So I was thinking, why is this happening? And then in the report as well, there was a mention that AI is, predominantly used among young men. Potentially from kind of, Western backgrounds, different backgrounds and stuff. And that kind of helped me make sense a little bit of it, especially when it mentions as well certain industries, for example, male-dominated industries are a lot more kind of used to using ChatGPT. So when it comes to that, I think, we don't need to run away and we don't need to think about, oh my gosh, we have to do everything for desktop again rather than just mobile. I think we need to think of it as a whole, understand, why is this happening? Which markets do we want to go in? Do people use mobiles? Do they use desktops? And then just use a bit of critical thinking on some of these results so that we're not making any rash decisions on things that don't really work.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting because I've seen studies saying the opposite as well, that mobile's still on top, and I think the data period makes a lot of difference. The important thing, I think, is people are using it on desktop because they're also using it at work, and we don't work on our mobiles most of the time. And a lot of people are using ChatGPT and similar like assistants to support them at work. I know I personally use mine on voice mode at work, so I can have a conversation with it as if I'm having a conversation with a colleague, but I get like a peppy young American coming back to me really quickly and very enthusiastic. But also because people are using it for things like content structuring, they're using it for emails, they're using it for coding if they work in that sort of area. And I think it's important to realize that also a lot of people are making purchasing decisions for certain businesses, B2B, when they're at work. They're not doing that on their mobile in their free time.
That was also my assumption. Yeah. And I wonder if we may see this shifting as, people start becoming more used to, use ChatGPT for things outside, their work tasks. And also same way, because years ago, we wouldn't make a purchase on mobile. Like perhaps, you look for information on mobile, and then when, it comes to the moment you want to purchase something, you go to desktop because you trust it more. I wonder if, as people start using ChatGPT for other things, if they will rely on mobile more or not. Personally, you were mentioning also like searching with voice, like using ChatGPT with voice. When I use it with mobile, I use it more with voice for some reason. I don't know if you, for example, when desktop, you type more, and then when you use it with your phone, it's like you use like it was a phone call. I don't know. Just curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Sure. So we're literally 4 minutes away from ending. So I'm going to ask our final question. And before I do that, I'll let those, we still have a few questions that we didn't unfortunately get a chance to answer. I believe our panelists will get access to those questions, and we'll be able to try to answer those questions offline. And so I don't know if you want to add anything else to that note, Fernando.
No, yes, definitely. There are a lot of questions, and you can leave your question there. We know your name, and we can have that question answered offline.
Okay. So here's our final question for everyone here. Looking ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, what key milestones or breakthroughs do you foresee shaping the evolution of AI-powered search, and how should we as business owners prepare for that?
I think AI is going to get better, and businesses need to be ready and expect that. We've seen it rapidly improve already in this sort of past 2-year period so significantly that it's talked about. But my prediction for what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to be seeing personalized search results. And I personally can't wait for it. I know that a lot of people have data concerns around it. I think we're going to see it first with Google, because they're going to have to do something to compete here. I think we're going to start seeing different search results for our searches for the same keywords from other people based on our individual search preferences, the kind of things that we click on, the kind of things that we read, how we actually use those search results. And then secondly, I think what will happen is these AI tools will evolve to be sort of AI avatars or personal GPTs that become like our search assistants that we can also shape to be the kind of person that we like to have conversations with. And they'll be trying to answer our queries and do things on our behalf to make our life easier. So I think personalization is the way this is going to go.
I think for me as well, I'm really looking forward to seeing that, people are going to start using it on mobile, and people are going to start using it instead of search rather than just at work, like we're seeing now. And one thing that I really hope is going to happen over the next 5 years is that work on, search results and AI search results for minority languages, for example, like Czech, is going to improve a lot as well, because I can see a massive difference between, what you can get in Czech and what you can get in English. And I'm really, really hoping that, they'll work on these smaller languages rather than just being like, oh, there's only a small number of people. So, it's not really worth it. So
That would
we'll
be
see.
amazing. That would be amazing. I hope that is the case.
Yeah, I also see, I work with different languages, and I see the difference between results in English and, I don't know, other minor languages, and even Spanish or Italian, which I also use. I see a huge difference, and I cannot even imagine. I don't speak Czech, so I don't know. Like, I believe it must be different. It's also with Catalan. I've tried, and I see difference. So yeah, hopefully we can bridge the gap also with those languages that there isn't that much content that as is in English. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see how it evolves.
What do you think is going to happen, Jimmy?
Oh, me? I the personalization thing is definitely a key. You see these little, you see these ads, and they got these little AI people walking around now, and so that I get that picture in my head. To me, I just think that having an overall marketing and business strategy is just always is just so important, because as much as we like to predict the future, it's still up because things are moving so fast. But the one thing that we can count on is a strong business and marketing strategy. So having that in place, and I like what you all talked about in regards to, when we look at search, how everything else will now be factored into you showing up in this AI search, I think is such a key point that will affect us all moving forward.
Absolutely.
And also leverage your expertise. If you are a subject matter expert on a topic, this is also what is going to make the difference in a world where we'll see more and more AI generated content. Being an expert on a topic, that's going to give you a very competitive advantage.
Something
Well,
that you mentioned, I really loved, and I believe in the next 5 or 10 years that will remain. EEAT principles are going to be staying there, so that's very actual to stay competitive in this dynamic landscape.
Definitely.
Yeah. So again, we could go on, but we're already at the top of the hour. Such an amazing conversation. Thank you all for contributing. Again, get the book, ladies and gentlemen. You're on the link is there. This is ongoing, so this conversation is going to continue to evolve. I guarantee if we had this conversation in 3 months or 6 months from now, it's going to be a little different. Because it's moving that fast, and I'm definitely, just like you said, I'm here for it.
Oh yeah,
all of us.
Yeah, we're all here
Definitely.
for it. Bring it on. We're going in head first. We're the early birds. We're the early birds that's going to catch those worms. So, without further ado, thank you all again. We appreciate you all joining the webinar, and again, keep asking questions. Connect with everyone here. Look them up on the social channels, and thanks again to SEMrush, and of course Bright Talk for sponsoring this event, and of course for Statista and you for producing such a great report. We look forward to seeing you all at another incredible SEMrush webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.